Hey guys, this is Jeff Stanek with Figured Out Baseball. We've got a great Figured Out Baseball podcast for you today that I'm really excited to get into, more than I am for a lot of these things. But we've got Jim Chester on the podcast today. He's the head coach at Gardner-Webb University, a Division I school in Boiling Springs, North Carolina, in the Big South Conference. I've known Coach Chester for several years and very, very excited to catch up with him here and get into some things that I think you'll find very, very valuable. Let me give you a quick background on Coach Chester before we jump into questions. He's a Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania native, which I always appreciate talking to a Western Pennsylvania guy. He graduated from Thiel College in 2003, a Division III school in Greenville, Pennsylvania, where he was a four-year letter winner and got his degree in psychology, which I'm sure doesn't hurt when you're in the coaching world and you're a psychologist about every day to your players. He started his coaching career in 2004 and 5 as an assistant coach at Seton Hill University, an NAIA school in Greensburg, Pennsylvania. 2006 and 7, he got his first head coaching job where he was the head coach at Mercyhurst Northeast College, a junior college in Northeast Pennsylvania. In 2008 through 14, he got a head coaching job at Penn State Greater Allegheny, a Division III program in the USCAA, and that is located in McKeesport, Pennsylvania. While he was at Penn State Greater Allegheny, he also served as athletic director. He had a career record there of 239 and 84. Pretty incredible record. The team made 6 USCAA World Series appearances in his tenure. He left as the winningest coach in school history. 3 times he was named Conference Coach of the Year. And in 2011, he was named the Chuck Tanner Collegiate Manager of the Year. 2015 through 17, he took a new venture as the head coach at Lock Haven University, a Division II program in Lock Haven, Pennsylvania. He turned that team around from being 13 and 28 to being 32 and 18 in his last season, when the team also had a 10th round draft pick and 5 all-conference players. 2018 and 19, he was hired to be the head coach at Barton College, a Division II school in Wilson, North Carolina. And then 2019, he was named as the Conference Coach of the Year. He led the team to the biggest turnaround nationally in Division II, NCAA Division II baseball. The team finished 31 and 20 in his last year at Barton. They had 5 all-conference players. He was named the Conference Coach of the Year in 2019. Then in June 2019, he was hired at Gardner-Webb. 2020 was his first season as the head coach, first spring season. Even though it was a truncated season, the team finished 8 and 8. Not a bad start, and they had some nice wins to begin the 2020 season. But a guy that's had a really good career to this point, has turned several programs around, has a track record of winning, which I always like to have on the program. Coach Chester, sincerely appreciate you joining us on the podcast today.
No, thank you, Jeff. I'm fired up to be here and fired up to catch up with you.
So I like to usually start with something from the bio that stands out, and to me, there are several things. You were a college head coach very early in your career, which is always interesting to me, but the amount of success you had jumps out even more than that. Sometimes for me in my college coaching career, I can imagine myself as a 25-year-old head coach. You know, it's hard for me to believe that I would have had my stuff together enough to have much success or to really know what in the world I was doing. But you took over a junior college program just 2 years, with 2 years as an assistant coach. You got a head coaching job, and then after that you took over a 4-year program just 2 years later and had a tremendous amount of success there. Early on in your coaching career, Coach Chester, what was it, if you had to go back, and I'm sure you've done this, and kind of rehash what happened in those places and how you did, how exactly were you able to have success early on there as such a young head coach with only a couple years of collegiate assistant experience?
Well, I think going through the process, it's not something you're really focused on. Obviously the end goal was, success, and I guess everybody can define that in different ways. Wins and losses, academics, players moving on, whatever it might. There's a lot of different ways. It felt like a lot of that was, achieved. But now that I look back, and really look at some things, and these are things that I believe and that I try to share with our staff on a daily basis, is like, don't be afraid to make a mistake. I made plenty of them, and I do feel, I've always been a hands-on learner. can't say I just sat and read a book about how to be a head coach and just kind of jumped into it full steam. Screwed a lot up, and then kind of learned from my mistakes, and then tried to share those experiences with the people that were around me, kind of on a daily basis. So, I feel that's why, I believe, like everything, I try to jump in head first, and not afraid to try things, not afraid to, make a mistake and learn from it and move on and grow, and just every day just trying to get better.
Was there a plan in place necessarily to when you became a head coach? Because a lot of guys just want to move up the assistant coaching ranks and get to higher levels and things like that. When you took your first head coaching job, did you have anybody in particular that gave you some advice or kind of nudged you to say, like, hey, I think that'd be a good opportunity for you? Or was that just something that was the best opportunity available to you? Just curious why you decided to become a head coach at such a young age when you probably had other opportunities as an assistant.
Yeah, you know what? I've said this from the beginning. When I was named head coach here at Gardner-Webb, I got into this. My goal was not to be a Division I baseball coach. It was not. When you're on the road a lot, you talk to a lot of people and do a lot of things. It's told. You're told that you're trying to catch that golden goose. And that's like get to Division I, get to Division I. I was a Division III baseball player, and I'm proud of that. And I had a great experience. And I kind of enjoyed that level, and I kind of felt like maybe I was, suited to coach that level. Do you know what I mean? And so I was, when I got to the 4-year level, I thought I kind of made it, So it wasn't, I kind of was that was my goal, was never kind of looking to move to Division II, move to Division I, whatever it might be. It worked out that way. For a lot of different reasons. So I just, I enjoy the process, and I enjoy the program. So like, I think that's why I kind of wanted to be a head coach. I enjoy all the facets. And this as well as I do, that if throwing fungo, or I'm hitting fungo and throwing BP, and, that's the fun part. You know what I mean? The other piece is not the easiest, and I do enjoy that process. I enjoy fundraising. I enjoy, finding out ways to make the program better. I enjoy the organizational piece. I enjoy the communication piece. So I think that's why, I wanted to be a head coach.
And obviously it's worked out pretty well. All your years at Penn State Greater Allegheny, you wore several other hats. You wore several hats at pretty much every job that you had, whether it was as athletic director or I know you had a couple other positions when you were at Seton Hill and Mercyhurst Northeast. Was that part of the appeal of Lock Haven at the time, was not having to wear multiple hats and just be able to focus on baseball, or was it just time for a new opportunity and a new challenge for you there because of all the success you had at Penn State Greater Allegheny?
Yeah, I'll be honest. So we had a great run at Penn State Greater Allegheny. I'll never, ever forget those kids. I'll never forget that time. It was 7 years that I was there. It was awesome. I enjoyed it thoroughly. I love telling the stories, especially to our staff and some of our players sometimes about, we practiced in a parking lot, and, right now I'm in my office. I can see a picture of that parking lot. We painted bases on it. And I used to stand in somebody's yard to hit balls to the outfielders across the street from the parking lot. So we all coaches have those type of stories, and that's part of me. All that is, and I truly value that experience. And I think a lot of coaches get to the point where, I thought I was going to retire from Penn State Greater Allegheny, but boy, that was wrong. But it's it was one of those where, like, I just, and this is a credit to the other coaches and players. I felt like we kind of got as good as we could be. And, when I saw an opportunity like Lock Haven where, they were just finished in last in the PSAC East, and just, had an opportunity to maybe make an impact and do this, I said, you know what? I was always up for a challenge, and I was like, well, I figured out a little bit how to do it at this level. Let me see if I could maybe do it at the next level. Let's try that in arguably one of the best Division II conferences in the country. So just the challenge and the opportunity was probably what, at that time in my career was like, let's try this. You know what I mean?
And then you had an opportunity to go south.
Yep.
Was the opportunity at Barton, what was attractive to you about that move from Lock Haven? Because at Lock Haven you started to get some things moving. The team was definitely going in the right direction. You had some pretty good players in there and had some success. You had a 10th round draft pick, which is nothing to sneeze at any level, but particularly at Division II and a Northern Division II. Even though that conference has a lot of pretty good draft picks out of there. But at that time you had in a very short time gotten the team to be very competitive in a very, very competitive conference. What prompted the move or even an application to Barton when that job opened?
Well, this is what I can say about that. So, my wife was originally, not born in North Carolina, but spent a lot of time, and there's nothing like getting a field ready with 2 inches of snow on it. I think we've all been there. but the attraction of the climate, and then the opportunity, it was something family wise where we were taking a look, and when that opportunity arose, it was was another opportunity to maybe, not that, Barton had a pretty good history. It wasn't a deal where they were, a terrible program and resurrected, all those type of deals. But, Lock Haven is an outstanding institution, and the program is so special to me, but there is hurdles. And they were, we felt like we closed the gap on the Westchesters, the Millersvilles, the Shippensburgs of the world. But it takes some more work to do what we needed to do to get over the hump there, and that might not have been in the cards moving forward. So, I was looking for an opportunity where, a little bit more scholarship to work with, a little more, the climate was going to be better, and so I just felt at that time that was the right move. I wouldn't tell you that first year at Barton, there wasn't times where I was thinking twice. We went 12-36. So, I appreciate all the nice things you said about, some of the stops I made in my career, but that's the one that, if I learned the most about myself and about coaching, that 12-36 year was definitely one of them.
I had one of those years once, and can't say it was a lot of fun, but boy, it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of fun work. The fun to me with that team, I coached my first year at Morehead State. We were 16-40, and boy, was that miserable. But the fun part was putting together something that you thought was really going to work in the future and trying to sell people on your vision, trying to sell players on your vision. And I remember walking down into the athletic director's office my second year. I was down there for something else, talking to somebody from compliance or whatever, and the AD started talking to me for a few minutes. This is probably our second fall at Morehead State. And I told him that we were going to set the school record for wins that year. And he said, what is the school record? And it was something like 30 or 32. It wasn't very high. And I said, we're going to get it. We're going to get it this year. And just having, that was the fun part to me, just feeling like we built something here. We really have a shot to be pretty good, and kind of getting other people on board and getting other people excited about the program. And we didn't get the school record for wins that year, but we got it the following year, and went to a regional for the first time since 1984. In the third year since the staff that I was with took over at Morehead State. So that was the fun part to me. Now for you, Coach Chester, you're at all these programs, and I'm sure it's not a lot different now, but you're taking over a program that at Lock Haven, at Barton, and at Gardner-Webb, you're taking over programs who probably Gardner-Webb the least of the three, but have a lot of room to grow. What are you selling to players? We'll start with players. What are you selling to players at these places? What has been the consistent message for you over the years that like this is the recipe for success. This is what we're going to do to win, and this is why you want to be a part of this program going forward. Can you just talk a little bit about what the message is to recruits, because that's where it all starts. You can't turn a program around without getting a different caliber of athlete in there. So what is the story that you're selling to these players?
Well, I think the biggest piece is I never sell, I do believe I'm a visionary. There's no doubt about it. I mean, I'm going to talk about the program. We're going to talk about where the growth's going to be. I'm not one of those guys that's like promising we're going to get brand new this, that, or the other thing. Until there's ground broken, I never do that. But I think it's, hey, listen, we if you're looking for somewhere where you're gonna work and we're gonna be very blue collar, and you're gonna get a coaching staff that has a lot of energy and is gonna bring it every day and is gonna push you to be the best you can be. This can be a great place for you. We can tell you that we're gonna our goal every day is for you as a player to have an outstanding experience. I don't sell, we're going to Omaha, we're gonna win this, we're gonna win that. I just believe that if the process is done the right way, the wins take care of itself, and that's kind of what we really sell when we're meeting with players, parents, and just listen, you're gonna have a great experience, and this is why. This is how we're gonna go about things. This is how we do it. We spend a lot of time at what we do. We're gonna develop you as a player, and we love you and we care about you. And that's the important part. And we're going to give you tough love. We're going to tell you when things aren't right. We're going to tell you when things are, all that type of stuff. So that's really important too, to understand that there's going to be it's not going to be a perfect road. It's going to be a rocky one, but we know when you come out at the end of it, you're going to be a better man. You're going to be a better person. You're going to be a better player. You know what I mean? And on that way, us as coaches are going to become better people and better coaches, and the program is going to grow as a whole.
When you're selling that, as opposed to selling, hey, you come here and you're going to be a part of a great turnaround and we're going to go to the World Series, you're not selling that. You're selling just the type of program that you're going to have and kind of like what the day-to-day is going to be like, and if that sounds right for you, then we'd love to have you here. How does that result in turning a program around so quickly?
Yeah, that's the whole, everybody talks about culture, you know what I mean? And that's like, we do talk about culture, but culture is created through how the process is carried out. Try to really impress upon our guys and our staff and us as a whole, attention to detail, making sure that, we're the guy next to us is more important than ourselves. And it's a constant, message and a constant push to do those things. Listen, I'm just as enamored with winning as I was 15 years ago. I probably put way more stock into winning 15 years ago. And it was like, every game was life or death, and you carried out the frustrations maybe in other areas. I care about it more than anything. Trust me, winning. But I don't I put more focus on the program development, the growth as a whole than I have been about just figuring out how to win games. If that makes sense. And I think once I kind of. In so many ways, it was more about my second year at Lockhaven. I can remember vividly where I kind of started making that transition, and it's paid dividends, in the change of programs and doing some different things. So it's we all as young coaches get caught up in so much in the wins and losses, and you lose kind of the piece of, some of the important pieces of growing the full player, growing the program. In a lot of different ways. And, we're the only ones that know what's going on inside the program. There's a lot of people out there that, that don't know. And I think hopefully when we take the field this spring, we're going to be able to show a little bit of the growth that's went on here over the last year.
And just to talk a little more about getting the right kids in the program, do you believe that just by being very honest in the recruiting process and just saying, like, this is what it's going to be like. Not promising you wins, not promising you playing time, obviously, but if you want to go somewhere where you're going to work and you like to work, and you want to go somewhere where your coaches are going to be fully invested every day and are going to push you to be the best person you can be. Like, if you want that program, this is it. And do you believe that, has it been your experience that just by basically selling that vision, as opposed to a vision of where we're going to be at the end of the year, but a vision of like the day-to-day, and if this sounds like something you want to be a part of, this is it. Do you believe that just by doing that, that weeds out the wrong players and lets the right players say yes, even though the right players, you want winners, but is that sort of do you believe that you're almost selling something that appeals to the makeup of a guy that will be a winner and can make your team into winners by selling this vision that you have of kind of like the day-to-day stuff?
Yeah, no doubt. I think we do this longer and longer. I think there's two things. I think we can get a great feel for the player on the visit. And then obviously if you see them play in a game, you can get a pretty good feel on that stuff, which has been very difficult here over the last year. But it's a piece where, the other piece that I've enjoyed about my career is the relationships that I've been able to build all over baseball, from the youth level to the Major League Baseball, and you really find the more relationships you make, you find the people that you know and you trust. And look, I get a phone call from somebody I know and I really trust, and hey, is this kid the right kid for me? Like, our program, and if they give me the blessing, it's almost a no-brainer for me. Because the more you do this, the more people know what you're trying to do in the program, and you're able to get that feeling of having the right player. But we spend a good bit of time vetting the process. If we're gonna, what's important is, if a player commits here, and reality says, and it shows that I'm going to spend more time with that player than I do my own children, and that's a blessing for me. There's no doubt about it. Where we have a chance to impact lives, but if that's going to happen, there's got to be a great relationship. There's got to be the right makeup. There's got to be the right approach to every. And so that's important. It's really, really important. So we make sure we vet the process and we get the right kid.
What about as far as assistant coaches go? I've been impressed with the guys that you've brought in, and I know you recently, I don't know how recent, but somewhat recently had a coaching change on the staff, and just it seems like everybody you hire, like you've got some really good coaches there. And Gardner-Webb, it's a beautiful campus. It's not the biggest campus. There are some things to sell, but it's not like you've got a big time program there in an unbelievable campus in a big time city or anything like that. There, obviously, you're doing something right to attract these coaches that you've been getting. How have you done that? Like, what message are you putting out there, or even like getting the right applicants to find these coaches who can be really impactful to the team right away? Is there any sort of secret formula that you've got there where you're getting these guys to apply? Because a lot of times, I'm assuming in most cases you didn't know these coaches prior, or at least some of them. It's not like they're guys that you coached in the past or anything like that. But you have gotten some really good coaches in there. What's been your process to make that happen?
Well, that's relationship stuff and being able to get some referrals and some different things. There is a connection for the most part with about every guy on our staff in some capacity. As I get out, our pitching coach, we retained here, Connor Scarborough, who's done a great job, and he had a familiarity with the campus, and like I said, I had that same experience with Coach Heath Stover, Little Smoke, who stayed on staff with me at Lock Haven, and was the best decision that I ever made. And I had the same experience that's going on here within that, and then Anthony Marks, who was one of the heroes on that Coastal Carolina championship team in 2016. I recruited him out of high school. He's a Pittsburgh kid, and I saw him run around the fields for a while, and I had a little bit of a prior relationship with him, and so that was a great fit there. And Jake Marinelli's our volunteer. He was the head coach at Mercyhurst Northeast, and just the connection with that program, and he played at Mercyhurst, and the relationship with that staff, I was able to, that there was just that end of things where it was a good fit as far as that goes. And then RGA's, Evan McFarland played for me at Lock Haven, and if we had 30 of them running around, you got a pretty good shot at winning a lot of baseball games. So that's why he was a perfect fit to coach here. And then Parker Lynn was with, I knew him out of high school, and then I remembered him on that end, and he's aggressively chasing the coaching profession, and good fit. And then Jimmy Kane's just joined us, and he's a Millersville guy. So if you're playing in Millersville and playing for John Sheehan, you know what the heck's going on. So, we're able to get a good fit there. But, it's just, again, it's relationships, networking, and, all these guys either personally or tied to someone that I feel pretty good about. So, I get the blessing, I get a blessing from someone that I'm close to that says, that this is the right fit. And it's kind of like, again, it's just doing your homework and really vetting the process and having – a little bit of an understanding of what intangibles are needed to be successful on that end. So that's kind of how we've gone about it.
As you've progressed as a coach and you've grown, you've matured as you've gotten older and kind of moved up, you talked a little bit just about how it used to be kind of all about wins, and now wins is still an important part of it, but it's not everything. How do you define success now as a coach? At the end of the year when you, I'm sure that you do a good bit of looking in the mirror, as well as I'm assuming you talk with, your athletic director just from year to year, and when you talk with your assistant coaches and kind of give them direction, what does success mean to you in a program now? What are all the components of a successful Division I college baseball program?
Well, we go ahead, and our program is surrounded by 3 words: selfless, relentless, and blue collar. And so everything that we do is kind of formulated around those words. So again, if we're selfless, we're doing an excellent job in the community, and we try to do as much community service as we can, and we're going out, and when I'm in the community and somebody says to me, you got a great group of young men, it's awesome. We travel on the road, and I get something back from someone, whether it be the hotel general manager or somebody working at the front desk or someone who's preparing the breakfast, that says, listen, you have a very, 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 very respectful group of young men. To me, that's success. That's success. And that's important, in all facets that we go through. Relentless, big proponent on the way we practice, the way we approach things, how we look, how we attack things. What is our mindset? If we're getting, compliments at the end of the day that wow, you could tell that your group really practices well. They put time into it. They do what they need to do. To me, that's success. Never giving up, fighting to the end, and those type of things. They're relentless. That's important to me. In that some end of being blue collars developed, I'm just really big proponent of our young men understanding for them to be successful. They got to put some time. They got to put time into it. I explain to them all the time. If you want to get good grades. I know there's those select guys that come out and they can just get 4.0s. That wasn't me, but that was definitely, hey, you're only going to get out of what you put into it. So listen, you want to be a good hitter, you got to put a little time into it. You want to be a good infielder. You've got to put a lot of time into it. There's a lot of pieces as far as that goes. I use the adage all the time. My daughter plays basketball, and I want her to be good. Well, I've got to practice with her. She's just not going to be good. So having that blue collar mentality and having an understanding that you're only going to be as good as the time you put into it, and that's with everything you do in life. So if you notice there, I'm not talking about winning games, and this is kind of the path I've went down here over the last 5, 6, 7 years, just taking care of those 3 pillars: selfless, relentless, and blue collar. The wins follow. It will. They 100% will. So that's what's important.
What are conversations that you have with your guys, your players, day to day, week to week, to keep them focused and to keep them buying into this process? Because I know I was 19 once, and I was 22 once, and some of those things just don't come very naturally, even though I feel like I came from a really good family. My parents were amazing, still are amazing people. But, being 19 and 20 years old and being selfless is really difficult. Being 19, 20 years old and being relentless when there are times when it's hard. It gets really hard and you get tired and you have, you've got to go to practice, and that after you get home from practice, you've got to study for several hours, probably until you fall asleep at your desk for this test that you have, or you've got to go home and write a long paper, or you have a midterm or whatever it is. It's not easy to do those things, which is why not a lot of programs out there have sustained success. It's just not easy to do. What are conversations that you have with players, Coach, just again, day to day, week to week, as individuals or as a whole team, to keep them focused and to keep them buying in and believing that this is the right path for all of you and for all of us collectively?
Be brutally honest with you, if there's any coach out there that says they don't get frustrated on a daily basis, they're just, maybe they're not going to work. I don't know. It's a going process. It's hard to realize, you've got young men that are, they're 19, they're 20, they're 21, they're 22. It's just, they're going to make mistakes. And, I'm sure if you talk to my college coach, he could put a podcast together of all the mistakes I made in college. And I probably wasn't the greatest, to be around on a daily basis. But it's something where you just got to have patience. You got to stick with the process, and you don't really reap a lot of benefits from it until, 3 or 4 years down the road, and somebody's getting engaged, or they have a milestone in their personal life. You know what I mean? Whatever it might be, it's that's where things get to be. You feel you can get some of the satisfaction of what you're trying to do during the time. We rely on a daily basis on instant gratification, right? So we've got Twitter, we've got Instagram, we've got the internet, we've got everything. Unfortunately, with coaching, there is not instant gratification. It's not there. And it takes a while to understand that and learn that and believe in it. But, you don't feel the benefits of a lot of things that you do and decisions you make until maybe down the road. It's like, as I'm planning practice today, and, we got to do some first and thirds today. I already know what's coming, right, Coach? It's going to be, we're going to throw the ball in the center field. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. I'm not worried about doing it well today. I'm worried about doing it well on February 19th. And that's the part you got to kind of really work with in regards to coaching. So that's, I believe in that piece. And I just, as we work and we make decisions and we do what we need to do, we just got to have patience to understand that the process will provide outcome.
Really good stuff. I want to ask you one last quick question. It should be a quick one for you, and then I know you got to go. When you retire, Coach Chester, just say that you spend the rest of your career at Gardner-Webb, and you retire from coaching, what do you hope that people will say about you? When you leave and there's a press conference or whatever, or just people that come after you will say, hey, that Jim Chester, I knew that guy. What do you want people to say about you when you're finished?
Well, it's funny because, my college coach used to ask that all the time. Like, what do people want to know as you as a player? And it might not be, I wasn't a very good player, but I know I showed up every day. And I stuck my nose to the ground, and I did what I needed to do. I hope when I get done with this, whenever the good Lord tells me that it's time to hang it up, that to say that Jim Chester cared about his players. He was invested at a high level in their development on and off the field, and man, that guy worked. That guy put a lot of time into what he did, and I would, I'd be able to, I would feel good about that if that was the perception of me when I got done with this.
Awesome stuff. This is Jim Chester, everybody. He's the head coach at Gardner-Webb University. 2021 will be his first chance to have a full spring. Looking forward to seeing what happens down there with him. And Coach, I just want to thank you for being on this podcast today. Would certainly love to have you back. There's a lot of things we didn't get to talk about that I think that would be really valuable, but this time was tremendous. Everything we got from you today was really, really enjoyable. So thank you again for taking your time, your very valuable time as you're approaching the spring season, to be on this podcast today.
No problem, Jeff. Appreciate it.